Thank you, everybody, for joining this Facebook Live event. And I'm honored to be for the gubernatorial candidates for Illinois governor here. And thank you for joining. My name is Ted Dabrowski. I'm with Wirepoints. We're a research group out of Illinois and a commentary group as well. And today we put out a very important paper because Illinois has hit a new milestone. The pension debts in Illinois, when you add them all up, have hit $500 billion. That's $500 billion that's creating havoc on our state. And more importantly, that $500 billion is about $110,000 per household that they're on the hook for in future taxes just to pay down old debts. Now, the motivation for putting out this event, having this event, was that these pension debts are being totally ignored by the leadership in this state. Nothing is happening. Nobody's talking about it. We've been can-kicking for years, and the people of Illinois are struggling under that weight of that debt. I understand there's lots of other problems in Illinois right now. We've got the crime, we've got the COVID, we've got the jobs problem that we have in many cities. So there's many problems, but I would argue that this financial one, this one big debt thing that's kind of something that people don't want to talk about, is really the big drag on people's lives. So once again, thank all of you in the public who are joining. Thank the media, any media who's there, and of course, thanks again to these candidates who are here. Important to mention that we did invite Governor Pritzker to join. We extended an invitation, did not hear back. So I thank all of the people here. It would be great to have Governor Pritzker here. He's the one that says that pensions can't be reformed, or that it's a fantasy to reform pensions. We'd love to hear him express those views here. The bottom line is that this state has become an extreme national outlier when it comes to pension debts. And that's what that $500 billion is really about. But that's just a big number, and nobody can put their hands around what $500 billion means. So that's why we got it down to $110,000 per household. And even then, what does that mean? So I want to explain a little bit of that, go through the math a little bit. I'm going to share a few slides. And then once I've done that, I'd like for each of the governor candidates to spend a few minutes talking about what the pension crisis means to them, or how they see it, or what they'll make their own comments as to what their campaign is going to do about those debts. So now I'm just going to share my screen and go over a few slides. So the key part here is for everybody to understand that this $500 billion is based off of Moody's Investor Services numbers. Why Moody's? Well, Moody's is the company that rates our state for its creditworthiness. They're the ones that determine what our credit rating is, and they nearly had us a junk recently, so they matter. They also determine who buys our bonds and who doesn't buy our bonds, and so that matters a lot as well. Also, they determine what interest rates we pay, and so that has a huge impact on Illinois, and it also determines what companies move in here. So what Moody's does matters. And you can see the breakdown. Moody's puts the state pension debt not at the official numbers of $144 billion. They say it's $313 billion. Chicago and Cook County have $122 billion in debts. You've got the state retiree health insurance that nobody ever talks about. That's $55 billion at the state level, and there's another almost $20 billion at the local level. So we've got these massive $530 billion in debts. What do they mean to a typical household? Well, a household has to, over time, pay down these debts because they're the only ones who can pay them down if we don't reform those debts. If we break those debts per household, it's about $110,000 for each household on average. And that's the sum of all the different the pieces that bear down on each one. What does that mean? And we're going to talk about that. First, I'm going to take you through the extreme outlier positions on pensions, because we have to understand that we're so out of whack with the rest of the country that without reform, we'll never fix this state. And I think I can make that bold statement. When you look at what Moody's says for the state level, for our 5 state funds at the state level, and they compare it to the other states, we are the extreme outlier. We have $313 billion in debt. Compare that to our neighbors. You can see those in blue. Indiana, I think or Wisconsin and Iowa at $8 billion and $4 billion. It's peanuts compared to what we have. They don't have that burden. And what should be understood is that families can just leave Illinois, escape that burden, and go to places where there is no burden like this. And likewise, why is somebody from Indiana going to move into Illinois to take on a burden that they didn't get the benefit for? So these are huge numbers, and we're the extreme outlier. When we put that on a per household basis, again, we line up all the states, and we look, and Illinois, on average, has about $65,000 of debt per household just for the state level pension funds. Again, compare that to our neighboring states, right? You've got Wisconsin down there at the 3,000 level. There's no comparison. They're not burdened. They can use their money in their state. People can use their money for their retirement, for education, for college, for a car, to pay down their mortgage. Not in Illinois. And when you look at as another way of measuring these debts, look at them as a percentage of the GDP. How big are these pension debts compared to the size of the economy? And the problem there is that, again, we're the extreme outlier in the country. Compare that to, again, our neighbors, Wisconsin, just 2% of their GDP is equal to pensions. So it's a massive problem. We're extreme. And importantly, we haven't talked about the government workers. Their retirement security has collapsed. We're the worst in the country. The pension funds are just 39% funded. Again, compared to Wisconsin at 100% funded. We're making a mess of this state. We're destroying the state. And what we're doing is leaving people only with a choice to leave or suffer. How does this play out for people? Well, they're paying the highest property taxes in the country, except for New Jersey. At 2% property tax rates, they are more than double what people are paying in Indiana and Kentucky. This, of course, is destroying home values. Home values in Illinois in the last decade were the 5th worst in the country. Our values, when you adjust for inflation, have fallen. When you have other states that are seeing massive increases after adjusting for inflation, massive increases. Why are we doing this to our people's home values? This is where people have their nest eggs. Again, this is why people are escaping their homes. It's why places like South Cook, people are just literally walking away from their homes and not paying their property taxes and just leaving the homes empty. And here's what it looks like. We're losing our neighbors. People are leaving us. And when you look at the population losses in the last decade, a place like Texas grew by 4 million people in the last decade. In Illinois, only West Virginia lost more people than we did. Only 3 states in the country lost people, and we're at the bottom end of that. We're doing the wrong things, and a big part of that is the pensions. Last 2 things, the credit agencies are calling us out for it. Illinois was almost junk rated until the COVID bailout came along. So we're almost junk rated. Our neighbors, several of them are AAA rated. And when you look at cities, Chicago is already junk rated by Moody's. Chicago Public Schools is rated worse than Detroit. This is not the state of Illinois we want to live in. And we can do better because we have a great state with great resources. And I'm sure some of the candidates will talk about that. So what I'm going to do now is just stop sharing, just make a few more points. I drive around the state in the work that I do. And a couple of weeks ago, I was in Decatur. Decatur, it was sad. It was sad. I didn't see hope. And what I did see is I drive around, and I always drive around the cities to look at housing stock. How do the houses look? And in Decatur, of course, not only do you see raised lots and do you see some burnt out houses, which in and of itself is sad, but you can see that people aren't investing in their homes anymore. And I say that, when you no longer believe that your home values are going to go up, when your property taxes are eating up all your money, why would you put $20,000 in a house that's only going to lose value? And that's, I think, part of the hopelessness that people have. Then I looked at the education and the drop in manufacturing in Decatur. It's the same thing I've seen in Peoria. It's the same thing as I've gone to other cities. People are struggling, and that's not what we need in Illinois. People are going to keep escaping if we don't fix these problems. So we have been pounding this message at Wirepoints for a long time about these pension debts, and every year they go up, up, up. And this year they hit a milestone, $500 billion, $500 billion, $110,000 on average per household. The purpose today is not to talk about solutions, because I think we haven't gotten even to the point of talking about the problem. We can't get the state house leaders to talk about the problem. So that's something that I'm very happy that at least these governor candidates today have joined, hopefully to raise awareness. And we can't continue to avoid this. We have a 1-year campaign coming on until November, and Will pensions get the due they deserve? Will people finally be listened to, or will they continue to be forced to leave because nobody's doing anything about it? At Wirepoints, we've created a page called Pension Solutions. So Wirepoints/Pension Solutions. And if you go there, you'll see all the work that we've done, tried to make it easier to understand for people because pensions are complex. But we lay out our pension solutions there. We lay out the problem. Please go there and check it out. And with that, I will turn it over. We'll go in alphabetical order to the governor candidates, starting with Darren Bailey. And again, thank you all for joining. At the end, I will take a couple of questions if we have time. Please put those questions in the Wirepoints Facebook Live. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bailey.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's nice to be with you. Ted, I've made no bones about it since the beginning, late June of 2017. You have a lot of responsibility for me entering into government as a state representative when I was totally checked out. People across this state indeed don't truly understand this burden, because once Illinois is unable to sell bonds, once they're unable to borrow money, and the interesting thing is, check out our last 20 years worth of budgets. And, I'm a farmer. And if I have a bad year and I lose money, I can't go to the bank and borrow money and say that I made money. That's what Illinois is doing, because this money must be paid back. So getting on board, understanding this, the pension problem in 2017, I did something about it. I saw the problem. I was concerned about the future for our grandchildren. Jumped in, ran for state representative against someone who had been voting for, just more tax debt, more pension debt. And that's been the fight since day one. I get out and being blessed to be able to serve as a state representative for the last 2 years and now as senator. When I talk to the people all across the pensioners, I find something in common. No one feels secure about their future. I certainly believe that when a promise has been made, it should be honored. I think that it is very important that we communicate to these pensioners that we are trying, working, wanting to uphold your earned obligation, but we have got to sit at the table and work and come up with solutions. And as 2 years in the House and now 1 year in the Senate, I found another a common point. Union bosses and the political elites, they don't want to talk about this. They just keep wanting to kick the can down the road, as you suggest, and it is becoming an enormous problem. So, I've been sharing Wirepoints information since day one. People are responding to it. I did something that anyone would have said probably would have been the broadside to a campaign just a month after announcing. I drew up and introduced a constitutional amendment to remove the pension protection clause, because as I sat in committees, as I talk to union bosses, you're correct, they won't hardly talk to you unless you force the issue. Many times it's because I had an audience in a committee and was abruptly shut down, that we're not talking about any solutions because there are we had tier 2 a few years ago, and oh yes, it is protected by the Constitution. Yet when I go out and I talk to the people that are working, they are very uncertain, very concerned about their future. So it must be talked about. So I sat and I thought, well, what in the world can I do to try to create conversation? So I introduced this, constitutional amendment to remove the pension protection clause. And interestingly enough, it garnered conversation. People are now coming to me as they see this platform expanding, and they're wanting to talk. Governor Pritzker's, he loves to chastise the Republicans, saying that we have no solutions, saying that we're anti-union, saying that we're trying to take away everyone's pension, which is absolutely untrue. We have got to come up with some solutions. Wirepoints has some wonderful starting points. I like to tell people that I liken it to, purchasing a piece of farm equipment or purchasing a vehicle, that we start somewhere and then we bring people to the table. And that's just exactly what the Republican Party has to do. That's what I will do as your governor. I will bring people to the table. I don't want to talk to the union bosses. I don't want to talk to the political elites. I want to talk to the men and women of IDOT, of Department of Corrections, just on and on and on, who are very concerned, as they should be, about their future. We'll sit down, we'll come up with some solutions. It's obvious that 401k plans must supersede. It's obvious that we have to, we've got to work with a reasonable COLA. We've got to have, obviously, health insurance participation, and all this can be done. And as much of your research, Ted, suggests that in 15 to 20 years, we can begin to right this ship. We can come up with a final fix so that we're not worried or concerned or talking about pension problems anymore, and that we can make Illinois the great state that we know that it should be, and that we can help make the people that are working so hard and diligently under state government secure in their future. So I just want to thank you so much for allowing this, for your research, for your concern about Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Appreciate that. Gary Rabine next. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much, Ted, for putting this together. You know what? I really like the fact that we have four people running for governors as conservatives, and as conservatives, we hopefully look at the future, whether it's bright or dull, and shine a light on it. And this is what we're doing. I mean, we've got trouble ahead, and if we don't fix it, if we don't look forward to fixing it as conservatives, it's not going away. And so I like the fact that we have four governors running on the Republican side that are all looking at this issue hard and fast. And Ted, we appreciate your guidance, because we've all been watching your everything you're writing, and we get it. So I appreciate that. We better face this problem. If we don't, our state is gonna go to hell in a handbasket. And so here's the thing. When I look at I was at breakfast this morning with a friend of mine. He was showing me that he's paying his bill in Florida for his place in Florida, $300,000 place, and it was less than $1,500 for his annual taxes. Okay, where I live in Woodstock, Illinois, that would be $12,000. Okay, Ted. So when you show that 2% of value, I think that's 2019. I'm very confident we've gone up more than that 2.2 or 2.3, whatever that was. We're up closer to 3, in my opinion. That's how far I've seen my property value, my property taxes go up. At the same time, property taxes have gone down. I got a couple examples. East St. Louis to St. Louis. Boy, in St. Louis, they're booming. East St. Louis is looking terrible, just like you said. The border town, or Decatur, I think you used. It's sickening to see the depreciated value, the loss in value to our border counties, and heck, across our state of Illinois. Depreciation of value instead of appreciation. We have all this crazy inflation and everything else, and we're still down in values for most homes in Illinois since 2008. That's tax theft. This isn't fair for any Illinoisans to have to go through this. When I was looking at a friend of mine's property the other day to look at repaving a parking lot for him. This building would cost $30 million to rebuild, about a $500,000 parking lot to repave. He can only spend like $20,000 or $30,000 to patch it up, because he says the value of the building is no more than $1 or $2 million today, because his taxes are $500,000 a year on a building with like $0 to $3 million in value is his estimated value. Okay, on a building that would cost $30 million to rebuild. So it's not just the residential properties that we're getting crushed on; it's our commercial properties as well. And so you're seeing vacancy everywhere in retail and office, and this isn't going to stop if we don't face the facts. And the crazy thing, Ted, is what are we getting for it? If these high taxes were actually paying down some of the principal on this debt, that'd be one thing we could talk about. But we're not even paying down any principal. It keeps growing. We're not even paying down all the interest on this debt. So if we don't face it now, we're going to be in a dark place in years to come. And great leadership, like I believe we have on this call, will face this tough problem like politicians usually don't. And I got to tell you, visionaries look to the future, bright or dull, and they really they understand what to do to fix the future. And I got to tell you, the future looks great in Illinois if we can fix it, when we fix this problem, and only when we fix it. So the goal's got to be to save the pension for pensioners, but you can't do it if you don't look at the future of it. I got to tell you, there's when I think of it's just not property tax, as you know. We're pumping up our gas tax, second highest I think in the country now. We're looking at a sales tax everywhere. Different pockets raising their sales tax. In Cook County, number 1 or 2 in the country today. But this all trickles down to unsustainable living for working class families, and we better stop it, and we better stop it fast. So I admire the fact that we've got four people seriously running for governor here, and I believe we need to band together. This doesn't need to be a point of a differentiation between us. In my opinion, with help from smart people in economics like yourself, Ted, and people across the country who fix this problem, we should band together, have a solution for this problem together, and know that anybody that votes for the Republican that wins this is going to get common sense, can't be bought leadership, like I'm going to bring to the table, because I tell you what, we haven't seen that in Illinois in a long time. So I thank you so much for having us on, and thank you to the other three gubernatorial candidates for being on, because I know you guys are as serious as I am about fixing this problem.
Gary, thank you very much. Okay, next, Paul Schimpf, thank you.
Well, thank you, Ted, and thank you to Wirepoints for your important work on this absolutely critical issue. I also want to echo what Gary said about my fellow candidates. I'm glad that you are taking this seriously and dedicated to solutions. Lastly, I want to also thank those of you who are tuning in and watching this. Thank you for taking the time to educate yourself about what is a very critical issue facing our state. Now, my name is Paul Schimpf, and I'm running for Illinois governor because our state needs common sense conservative leadership that we can trust. I am not a career politician. You're going to hear me talk about, the causes of this shortfall in a couple minutes. I was not part of that problem. I spent my adult life in the United States Marine Corps. I got out as a lieutenant colonel in 2013. I came home, wound up getting involved in politics because, I think you have a duty to try to make your state, your country, and your community a better place. So I was a state senator from 2017 until the very beginning of this year. I am not a state senator anymore, but I am not a career politician. Look, the current status of our pension system is simply unsustainable. The insolvency of our pension systems threatens the very financial stability of our state. This is something that leaders do have to be talking about. Ted mentioned the out-migration from Illinois. I was shocked when J.B. Pritzker gave his last State of the State speech, and he didn't even mention the fact that people were leaving our state, that we were hemorrhaging population. J.B. Pritzker has not led on this issue. The numbers that Wirepoints just unveiled are absolutely alarming and shocking. But it's important that we also realize that we did not get into this mess overnight. We have been, as a state, digging this pensions hole that we now find ourselves in for decades. And it's important to understand that there's not going to be any silver bullet or magic beans type solution that's going to get us out of this quickly. The number one driver for our pension shortfall is simply the Illinois politicians not making the required pension payments. And, I'm military, I can't help myself, but there is no other way to describe it than simply dereliction of duty by the Illinois General Assembly. And that negligence is not going to be able to be overcome instantaneously, but we can solve this problem. However, it's going to require sacrifice in time and fiscal responsibility. Now, in 2019, J.B. Pritzker's very first budget saw our state increase spending across the board, despite the fact that we had record revenue coming in. We had a real opportunity in 2019 to do something to move ourselves in the right direction. Unfortunately, we missed that opportunity. I was one of just a handful of Republican senators who voted no on that first Pritzker budget, and I voted no because the increased spending and failure to pay down the pension shortfall made our situation much worse in the long run. That no vote that I cast on that first Pritzker budget, and that was a no vote in opposition to the Republican leadership in the House and Senate who supported that budget, that no vote is how you know that I am serious about solving this pension crisis that our state faces. J.B. Pritzker and the Democratic Party that he leads have had absolute control over Illinois government for 3 years now. And what have they done to solve this problem? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The only solution that J.B. Pritzker offers to this or any other challenge that our state faces is increased taxes and increased government spending. J.B. Pritzker simply does not have the leadership capability to handle this crisis. This is yet another example of what I've been calling the Pritzker leadership deficit. It is real and it is adversely affecting our state. Like every other challenge our state faces, we need leadership, not outrage, to solve our pensions crisis. Illinois needs a leader who can be trusted to tell the truth, give measured analysis, offer solutions, and then unite our state. I am that leader, and I'm asking for your trust and your vote in the upcoming governor election in 2022. Thank you so much for listening to me today.
Thanks so much, Paul. Appreciate that. Okay, and not last but not least, Jesse Sullivan. Thank you, Jesse, for joining. Take it away.
Yeah, great, Ted. Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for joining this really important conversation. So I think back when I think of the pension issue, I think of sitting when I was telling my dad I was going to run for governor, and I was sitting on his back porch of his house. I'm his neighbor, and so I was looking out over our corn and soybean fields, and my dad said, "Hey, listen." He's a retired public school teacher, and he said, "Hey, if you're going to take away my pensions, I'm not going to vote for you." And I said, "Hey, you know what? You taught me better than that. You taught me that your word is your bond, and a man is only as good as his word." And the state made a contract with a set of individuals that owned up to their part of that contract. Now it's incumbent upon us to actually care for these pensioners that are receiving these by actually making good on that promise. And as you pointed out, Ted, 39% funded, that is an insecure future for these retirees that we've made a promise to. So now you need to recognize, okay, we've got to do something serious about this, not by taking away any earned benefits from those who have earned them, but by reforming the system, drastically reforming it. And you think about J.B. Pritzker's leadership or lack of leadership on this. It's really a head in the sand approach to the most important issues facing our state, whether that's crime or the pension issue. I'm not a politician. I'm a common sense problem solver who looks at, a business person who says, what is the core problem here? What is the root cause problem that our state is facing? And politicians don't like to do that, because then that means they own the problem and they actually own solving the problem and getting real outcomes for the people of the state. That's why J.B. Pritzker has avoided taking it on. And so for me, it's just making that recognition that being a common sense problem solver is what we need to take this on. And I don't think this is a partisan issue. I think it can be a bipartisan issue and approach. I think back in 2013, there was a real initiative in a bipartisan way to get this done. I was able to serve over in Afghanistan doing counterinsurgency work as a Department of Army civilian. In this work, what I learned was you put the mission first. You don't care who's on the right and the left of you, what their ideologies are. What you care about is getting the job done, getting the outcomes for those who are in need. And that's what we need as a leader of our state, someone who's willing to step in and take this problem head on. Also, I approach this as a job creator. Someone who I created Alter, a venture capital firm to back entrepreneurs creating jobs around the world. I recognize what is needed from the government in order to create an atmosphere that businesses and job creators want to be in. We are doing the exact opposite of that here in Illinois. We're creating a really unfriendly business environment. And don't take it from me as a business person, take it from Warren Buffett, the great investor who said, hey, one of the first things we look at whenever we're looking at investing in, into a new state is what are their unfunded liabilities? And when you look at Illinois being this extreme outlier, we're not going to be able to create the jobs of the future here in Illinois for our children if we have this, I call it, it's like a kraken under the sea. It's pulling everything else down along with it. And we need to point it out. We need to identify it. We need to have a bridge built builder who can actually solve it. And that's the last piece, is we need someone who can actually be a common sense problem solver, work with people on the other side to be able to get outcomes here. And there are a lot of potential outcomes. I know today's not about solutions, but there are a lot of potential solutions out there, but it's going to take the right type of person who's able and willing to work with the other side to actually get the results and outcomes the people of Illinois deserve. So I want to be that fighter as your governor to actually step up and say, we need to care about our retirees, those who have earned a pension. We need to care about them so much that we make this system solvent. We also have to care about the taxpayers, making sure they're not getting a raw end of the deal moving into the future. We need to care about the job creators here in Illinois and have a governor who will stand up for them and make this a business-friendly state. So please check out jessesullivan.com. I know I'm new to politics, but I'm not new to Illinois, and I love our home. I want to fix it, and I want to work together with the next generation of leaders here in Illinois that are going to make it happen.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jesse. So I'm just going to make a few closing comments, and we'll close out and let these candidates get back to their busy lives. A couple of points I want to make, and I want to be pretty harsh about this. There's no question in my mind, as I said, as I've gone around this state, that these pensions and the lack of action by lawmakers is destroying this state. And I think all the charts we showed show just how bad things are. And it's going to keep bleeding people. It's going to force people to keep leaving, and we won't be able to manage that problem. So that's why we put out this new report. Please find it. Illinois pension shortfall surpasses $530 billion. The average debt burden is now $110,000 per household. That's on the Wirepoints website. We've got a bunch of additional work on our website now to support our work. If you go to wirepoints.org/pension solutions, you'll find all of our work there. We spent a lot of time on ideas, a baseline reform plan that we think will fix Illinois. But if we don't start acting, we the people, the ordinary Illinoisans, if we don't start holding our lawmakers accountable, the problem will get worse. And sadly, the way many of them are holding our lawmakers accountable is they're leaving the state, and that's the saddest way that we hold them accountable. But those of us who stay here, we've got to demand more, fight for more, and fight for our great state. So with that, thank you very much for joining, all of you, and thank you, candidates, for your time. I wish Governor Pritzker could have joined us. We would have heard his side of the story, but otherwise, thank you all and all those who helped coordinate this. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ted.
Bye-bye.
Ted.